The opinions and views expressed by individuals during this broadcast are their own and may not be the opinions of this network, their group, or other organization they may be involved with.
I'm looking at myself, reflections of my mind. It's just the kind of day to leave myself behind. So gently swaying through the fairyland of love. If you'll just come with me, you'll see the beauty of Tuesday evening news. Tuesday evening
Hello, welcome back, everyone. Oh gosh, that's damn it. And welcome to the Psychedelic Retard Part. Hi, baby bumper, strawberry bumper. Oh, okay. Welcome to the Psychedelic Reporters for this Tuesday, oh crap, it's covered. The 30th. Oh, it's the 30th. Episode 213 here on NOK Network. The video news podcast focused on psychedelic medicine being reported in mainstream media. Shout out to the guys in Dead Ringer from Kirkland Lake, Ontario for the awesome intro track, originally recorded by the Booty Blues with some customized changes for our show. I am joined by my amazing joint hosts, Tara Simpson, along with the one and only Bufo Alvarius, who has chosen all of our stories for us. Hello, Tara.
Well, hello, hobbies, and hello, everyone. I'd like to take a minute to introduce Bufo. He's our Sonoran desert toad, or Colorado mud toad. Did you know he emits DMT from his skin? And while that sounds like good fun, park rangers would like to remind everyone, please don't lick the toad.
Don't lick the toad. It's funny. So speaking on don't lick the toad, that actually jumps into our first story, and it brings us right into the start of the new week of the reporters. This is the sporereport.com. Stating new study 5-MeO-DMT achieves 100% remission on a postpartum depression patients in a single day. And it doesn't state who wrote it, but it's a good article.
Yeah, so I actually kind of pre-read this. I actually sent this to my daughter recently because she was struggling a little bit with some postpartum depression stuff, and she found it very interesting as well. So postpartum depression affects roughly 1 in 5 new mothers globally. Up to 30% of those diagnosed are still symptomatic 2 years after giving birth. And the current treatment landscape, SSRIs, that take 4 to 6 weeks to work, and a single FDA-approved option requiring a 2-week dosing course leaves an enormous amount of suffering unaddressed. A new phase 2 clinical trial just published in the Journal of Clinical Psychiatry may represent one of the most striking early signals in this space in years. Researchers administered inhaled mebufotenin, 5-MeO-DMT, formulated as GH001, to 10 women with moderate to severe postpartum depression. By day 8, every single patient was in remission. What the study did, the trial, sponsored by GH Research, conducted at sites in the UK and Netherlands, enrolled women 18 to 45 who met diagnostic criteria for major depressive disorder with peripartum onset and had Montgomery Asperg Depression Rating Scale scores of 28 or above at baseline, reflecting moderate to severe symptoms. The mean baseline score was 36.7. GH001 was administered as an individual dosing regimen of up to 3 escalating doses, 6 milligrams, 12 milligrams, and 18 milligrams on a single day using an inhalation device that delivers a vaporized aerosol. The entire psychoactive window for each dose lasted roughly 20 to 25 minutes. Patients were supervised by qualified healthcare professionals, but received no planned psychotherapy before, during, or after the dosing. That's interesting. That's really interesting because we talk a lot about integration and therapy when utilizing these substances. Did we lose hobbies? We lost hobbies. The results, the primary endpoint was change in MADRS scores from baseline to day 8. The mean reduction was 35.4 points, corresponding to approximately 96% symptom reduction. All 10 patients achieved both response, 50% or greater, and remission MADRS scores of 10 or below by day 8. Crucially, these affected those who were already present just 2 hours after the final dose in day 1 and were maintained through the end of the trial. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so improvements extended beyond depression scores. The clinical golden impression scale showed near complete resolution of illness severity. The Barkin index of maternal functioning, which assesses a mother's ability to care for herself and her infant, improved by approximately 56% of suicidal ideation. And present in 3 patients at baseline dropped to 0 by discharge on day 1 and remained there. On safety, there were no serious adverse events. The most commonly reported side effects was headache, affecting 5 of 10 patients. Transient increases in blood pressure and heart rate were observed during the psychoactive phase, consistent with other psychedelic compounds, and resolved within 20 to 60 minutes. No sedative effects carried over after the experience ended, and all patients were deemed ready for discharge on the same day. For the 4 patients who were still lactating, the researchers measured melphalan and its metabolites in breast milk. Levels were detectable at 1 hour post-dose, but declined to below or near the limit of quantification by around 8 hours, and were undetectable on days 2 and 8. This suggests that a brief interruption of breastfeeding around the dosing window may be sufficient. Well, what makes the difference? To understand why these findings are significant, it helps to compare them against the existing landscape. SSRIs and established first-line treatment typically require 4 to 6 weeks to show meaningful effect and carry chronic side effects profiles that contribute to the poor adherence. Zuranolone, the only FDA-approved treatment specifically for PPTD, requires a 14-day oral dosing course, comes with driving restrictions after each dose, and sees comparatively low clinical uptake. Brexanolone which was previously approved but since been withdrawn, required a 60-hour intravenous infusion in a clinical setting. GH001 achieved remission in all patients within hours on a single day in an outpatient setting, with 7 days discharge. Mechanically, metbufotein-9 acts as a non-selective serotonin against a particularly strong affinity for the 5-HT1A receptor, rather than 5-H2-A receptor, more than associated with classical psychedelics like psilocybin. Its plasma half-life is short, which likely accounts for the compressed duration of psychoactive effects and the clean safety profile post-experience. The researcher suggests that the rapid antidepressant effects may be linked to downstream glutamatergic signaling and the promotion of acute neuroplasticity. Through the presence mechanisms remain an open question, though and the precise mechanisms remain an open. What is 5-MeO-DMT? 5-MeO-DMT is a naturally occurring psychoactive compound found in several plant species, and most famously the secretions of the serotonin desert alvarius. Unlike psilocybin, which produces a prolonged multi-experience, 5-MeO-DMT is characterized by an intense but extreme short-lived altered state, typically lasting 15 to 45 minutes. It acts primarily on serotonin receptors with a particularly strong affinity for 5-HT1A and appears to drive rapid changes in neuroplasticity rather than the extended perceptual shifts associated with classical psychedelics. Interest in the therapeutic potential has been growing steadily, and it recently attracted mainstream attention when biohacker and longevity experimenter Brian Johnson publicly documented his own 5-MeO-DMT experience, describing significant shifts in a mood and cognitive state in the days following. Johnson's experiment was self-directed and anecdotal, but it brought wider visibility to a compound that researchers have been quietly investigating for years. GH001 is a synthetic pharmaceutical-grade imitation formulation of 5-MeO-DMT, removing the variable and ethical concerns associated with tau-derived sources. Wow.
Yeah, important caveats. This is a small, open-label, uncontrolled pilot trial of 10 participants with no placebo group. It was also a predominantly white sample, 90%, with a follow-up window of just 1 week. The absence of a control group makes it difficult to separate treatment effects from efficacy, natural recovery, or regression to the mean, though the speed and magnitude of response make purely placebo-driven effects implausible. The researchers had originally aimed to enroll 15 patients, but stopped early due to recruitment challenges, driven in part by strict inclusion criteria that excluded women on concurrent antidepressants or with significant psychiatric comorbidities. What this study does convincingly is establish a proof of concept signal strong enough to justify the next stage of investigation. Placebo-controlled trials with longer follow-up are needed, and the authors acknowledge this explicitly. The maternal functioning data also opens a genuinely important question about whether this kind of intervention could affect the mother-infant relationship in a measurable way. The picture emerging here is a compound of acts fast, clear, quickly, and may fundamentally change the conversation about how postpartum depression is treated. That conversation is just beginning. And it is, postpartum depression is a very common thing for women to experience after having a child. I was one of them when my kids were born. And again, their first go-to is to put you on a bunch of pharmaceutical drugs, which really didn't take the depression away for me. It just made it a little duller, I guess, in a sense. And again, that is all goes into the breast milk. So if you're a breastfeeding mother, you're now giving your infant antidepressants, which again, we try to steer clear of substances that could be harmful to ourselves, let alone our children. I think that this could be a better option if it works better for women and it's a limited treatment, right? You take it a few times, you feel better, and it's out of your breast milk within 2 days at the most. And again, I don't think there's probably that much in the breast milk, and being that we naturally produce this substance in our body as well, how harmful is that versus something like an antidepressant from the pharmacy that has like hundreds of side effects? So it's just really interesting research that's happening, and I think we're going to see a lot of great things come from this for women who struggle. And again, what is postpartum depression? I mean, no one can really answer that. I think it's that, our hormones go completely apeshit while we're pregnant, and then we give birth and they go completely apeshit again. Plus you have an adjustment period of being in the womb, all of those things, right? It didn't happen overnight. It's not going to fix itself overnight.
Oh yeah.
So it's not going to fix itself. I think it's time. Women need more time and support to understand that this isn't something wrong with your brain. It's like a hormonal. Wrong with your brain.
No. Oh, did I get that echo again? All right. So yeah, the thing with that, it's just interesting, and that brings us on to our next article, which is another interesting article. This is ctvnews.ca. And this states women with Alzheimer's shows improvements for after taking magic mushrooms in a single person study by Crystal Dabu. And good article.
Yeah. A Japanese American woman with advanced Alzheimer's disease showed noticeable improvements, which included reciting personal memories after she took a high dose of magic mushrooms, according to a case study. The woman was in her 80s and had a 10-year history with the disease, 5 of which saw her mostly communicate using one-syllable words, according to the case study published in the Frontiers in Neuroscience Journal in May. Advanced Alzheimer's disease is generally considered a stage of irreversible functional decline, the report said. As a result of the disease, the report said the woman had cognitive problems and trouble swallowing and controlling her bladder, and suffered a severe reduction in spontaneous communication. For the study, the woman was given 5 grams of orally administered psilocybin-containing mushrooms. She initially experienced symptoms such as clinically suspected hypothermia, profuse sweating, and a prolonged deep sleep-like state. After about 19 hours after taking the mushrooms, researchers say she started to recite personal memories. She exhibited other functional improvements over the following weeks, which included restoring her ability to control her bladder, her ability to dress herself, and her ability to have spontaneous social interactions. A month after the initial session, the patient still maintained some of the improvements. She was given a lower dose of the mushrooms, 3 grams, in a second session. Researchers noted improvement such as expressing herself more verbally, showing spontaneous humor, and more agility while walking. Without prompting, she even said, "It's pleasant to come here," according to the case study. Despite the temporary functional improvement in advanced Alzheimer's disease, the researchers noted noted that the findings do not suggest the mushrooms can reverse the disease. Advanced Alzheimer's disease imposes profound loss of autonomy, communications, continence, mobility, social interaction, generating severe emotional and caregiving burden. According to researchers, current therapeutic strategies at this stage are largely supportive, and meaningful functional recovery is generally considered unlikely. Interesting.
Oh yeah, low risk and a potentially high reward psychologist. Zach Walsh, a clinical psychologist and psychology professor at the University of British Columbia, said the research shows signs that the psilocybin-containing mushrooms can be effective in treating the disease. Although Walsh called the potential treatment to be pretty exciting, he said more research is needed. It seems to be a safe medication, at least, so the risks of something bad happening with psilocybin are low when we're trying out the new medication. Welsh, who studies psychedelic drugs and cannabis, said in a video interview with CTVnews.ca on Thursday, so it seems like a low risk and potentially high reward. But at the same time, it's very early days, Walsh added. What are the magic mushrooms? What magic mushrooms contain psilocybin, a hallucinogenic, a psychedelic drug that can alter how a user sees, hears, tastes, smells, or feels, as well as their mood, according to the Center for Addiction and Mental Health, CAMH in Toronto. How have they been used in healthcare? Well, psilocybin and hallucinogen are one of the active ingredients, but although it's legal in Canada to possess, sell, and use magic mushroom, they have increasingly drawn interest for potential therapeutic purposes, according to Health Canada. Clinical trials with psilocybin have shown promising results. All this time, there are no approved therapeutic products containing psilocybin in Canada or elsewhere, Health Canada wrote on its website. Camille Lawrence, a clinical research manager with Sarasil, a Canadian nonprofit that specializes in psychedelic healthcare, said that she finds the research to be promising. I think it's really interesting in that we gain a widely domain of functions. Lawrence said the Thursday in the video interview from Ottawa, adding that she would love to see the study applicated in similar controlled clinical trials. However, she says she concerns that in a frail elderly person, the treatment could be life-threatening. I could say this definitely isn't something that folks should be lying at home or to give their loved ones who have Alzheimer's disease, and the authors of the paper also suggest that people do it, Lawrence said. So the hope is real, but the path must be through these clinical trials, she added. Experts say there isn't enough evidence yet to use magic mushrooms to treat conditions such as depression, anxiety, and addictions, but there are efforts pushing for access to the drugs. You want to read the rest of it?
Yeah, where'd you leave off?
The conservative.
Okay, conservative MP Cory Tauchner introduced a bill earlier this month that would make it easier for doctors to prescribe magic mushrooms to treat mental health and addiction problems. Lawrence is also pushing for the bill to pass. She told the House of Commons about a 2016 study on magic mushrooms, and there's a link there, that found after 6 months of 5-week sessions, 80% of cancer patients experience substantially reduced depression and anxiety, as well as increased well-being and life satisfaction. While mushrooms are illegal in Canada, Lawrence said Health Canada has authorized clinical trials, including some of which she designed, and individuals with severe health conditions could gain special access to the drugs. And we actually happen to know a few of those patients. We've interviewed them on Open Your Eye over the years. So that's kind of cool.
That went through that program?
Yeah, they went through the special access program or worked through Therapsil in some of their clinical trials as well. So some pretty interesting results. Thomas Hartle was one of those patients prior to him passing.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So our last article before break is from drugdiscoverynews.com, and this states weekly rundown. The Finium psychedelic drug delivers rapid relief in magic depression in late stage study. Phase 3 trial result for neurological drugs on AI platform for central nervous system for drug discovery, a novel long-acting flu antiviral, and more led the news this week. And this is from the DD editorial team.
Yeah. Definum's psychiatric drug delivery or delivers a rapid relief in major depression in late stage study. On Monday, Definitive Therapeutics reported a phase 3 trial of its serotonergistic psychedelic candidate DT120 met its primary and all key secondary endpoints in adults with major depressive disorder, delivering what the company describes as rapid and durable symptom relief after a single dose. In the 149 patient Emerge study, participants receiving DT120 showed a mean reduction of 13.3 points on the Montgomery-Åsberg Depression Rating Scale at 6 weeks, compared to the 5.2 point reduction on placebo, translating to a placebo-adjusted difference of 8.1 points. The effect emerged quickly with a significant improvement evident by 1 week and was sustained through week 12. Definum's noted that the magnitude of symptom reduction compares favorably with the results reported for existing antidepressants such as Takeda, Trinellix, and Asom's Therapeutics, Auvelity, and exceeds the placebo-adjusted effects seen with Johnson & Johnson's ketamine-based nasal spray Spravato. Also, while cautioning that cross-trial comparisons are imperfect, DT120, an oral disintegrating formulation of LSD, acts as a partial 5-HT2A receptor antagonist, was generally well tolerated, with most adverse events mild to moderate and occurring on the day of dosing, and no increase in suicidal ideation reported. A second phase 3 trial, Ascend, is testing a lower dose arm designed to preserve blinding, as results expected next year, while additional late-stage studies are underway in generalized anxiety disorder as the company prepares for future regulatory discussions. So that's pretty cool.
She closed it down. So it's a bunch of stock updates in things. Yeah, there we go. Merck KGaA's 11-3 biotech deal is a major bet on omics and spatial biology. The German science not to be U.S. based announced this week to acquire Biotechnology of Minneapolis Life Science Tools and Regions Company for $73, representing the total enterprise approximately $11.3 billion. The deal expected close late. Largest acquisition emerged the life science segment since 17, purchased Sigma biotech portfolio, 500,000 growth factors, antibodies, protein simple. So does that mean they're going into psychedelics now? Oh yeah, I guess that was the only psychedelic one.
Yeah, a lot of them aren't psychedelic necessarily based. I think that was really the only big one that I picked up on.
Oh shit, my high ass. Well, Kim knew what she was doing. Yeah, she must be higher than me or something. So let's let's pull up my lines. So I'm not puppet winging it here. Psychedelic break. Oh, it's medication time.
That's right, folks. It is. It's time to pay some bills. So stay tuned for a word from some of our amazing sponsors, and then we'll return with more articles Bufo has chosen making mainstream media news.
Back in 4 minutes and 20 seconds here on Psychedelic Reporters on NLK Network.
Hi, my name is John Mark, aka Sublimator Warrior, and I would like to welcome you to Smoke Signal in Tyndinaga.
One dab make your whole dome drip sweat. One dab make the homies all dip set. One dab, only really need one dab. One dab.
Smoke Signal is a medical dispensary where you can get all your products and needs.
Vaping a whole bunch. Might just start laying up the blunts. God. Ooey, ooey, gooey, that's a sticky dab. Sticky dab. Might just have to put this one on Instagram. Go and hold it in, feel it in your ribs.
So come and check us out in Tyndinaga. 55 Highway 49 in Tyndinaga. It's on the res, and we're open from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. 7 days a week.
Join us for NOK Network monthly specials, 12 months a year, movie nights, spotlights on entertainment, and live on location coverage. Stay up to date about upcoming programming by subscribing to NOK Network on Rumble, YouTube, X, LinkedIn, Twitch, and Facebook. Check out our webpage at www.noknetwork.com.
Dirty Dave, award-winning cultivator for over 4 decades. Dirty Dave, prized genetics fueled by advanced nutrients, original OG organics. Dirty Dave, award-winning products available at these fine establishments. Ask your shop to carry Dirty Dave. Contact us at dirtiesdoggies@gmail.com.
Welcome back to the show in our regular program.
Welcome back. We're back from our medication session live here on Psychedelic Reporters on NOK Network.
And we have another set of stories coming at you from the world of psychedelic medicine. So let's get at it. All right. Our next story comes out of monash.edu. And it states Monash researchers launched new clinical trial testing psychedelic therapy for post-concussion symptoms. And it doesn't state who wrote it.
Yeah, so Monash University researchers have just launched Australia's first clinical trial to test whether the psychedelic drug psilocybin is an effective treatment for persistent post-concussion symptoms. There are few effective therapies for debilitating long-term effects of mild traumatic brain injury, more commonly known as concussion. But researchers now think psilocybin, a psychedelic compound found in some mushrooms, could be the answer. Recent studies from Monash University indicate that a single macro dose of the drug can reduce the symptoms that often show up after a brain injury. The project will leverage leading-edge capability and track record in neuroimaging and biomarkers of psychedelics within the Monash Trauma Group and clinical implementation and assessment within the Clinical Psychedelic Lab. Lead researcher on the trial, Professor Terence O'Brien, head of Monash University's School of Translational Medicine, Program Director Alfred Brain, and Deputy Director of Research at Bayside Health Alfred Care Group, said that the clinical trial is a huge step forward and will provide hope to many patients. Given the lack of effective treatment options for persisting and debilitating concussion symptoms, we are excited to be studying a promising new approach, Professor O'Brien said. In addition to alleviating symptoms, research suggests it can also target the biological effects concussion has on the brain. Up to 50% of people who sustain concussion will experience persistent post-concussion symptoms. These commonly include cognitive and emotional issues, plus other debilitating symptoms such as headache, dizziness, irritability, and sleep disturbance. The Monash-led trial, funded by $1.5 million Medical Research Future Fund grant, will take place in Melbourne over 3 years, beginning in 2026. It is Australia's first randomized, double-blind, active placebo-controlled clinical trial investigating the efficacy of psilocybin-assisted therapy for persistent post-concussion symptoms in humans. It will study the effects of the drug on people who have had persistent post-concussion symptoms for at least 6 months, regardless of the cause of the original concussion. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. Professor Sandy Schultz from the Monash Trauma Group in the School of Transitional Medicine said researchers expect psilocybin will reduce neural inflammation and enhance the brain's ability to form a new neural connections. We will also be looking at blood and neuroimaging biomarkers in the brain so we can underestimate what the drug is doing in the body and how it's helping reduce symptoms, Professor Schultz said. These benefits could last for at least 6 months post-treatment, which would be a game changer, and we will test this in the trial. Dr. Josh Allen, a researcher, fellow in the clinical psychedelic lab at Monash School of Clinical Science, said, well, many thinks this kind of trial isn't for them. It's worth reaching out if you suffer from persistent post-concussion symptoms. Participants are supported every step of the way, he said. This includes preparation sessions before guided care during psychiatric experience and integration therapy afterwards. Approach will promote safety and maximizes benefits for all trial participants. Dr. Paul Lynn Knautsy, head of the clinical psychedelic lab, said the research will address a major unmet need for people with persistent post-concussion symptoms. We're testing a combined treatment approach that targets both the neurological and psychological drivers of patients' symptoms and functionality. This Dr. Lincoln Natsky said, the project is a collaboration between the university's Department of Neuroscience and Department of Psychiatry, also a part of the research team are Georgia Simons, Dr. Jennifer Novak Knight, Dr. Chen, and Dr. Andrew Evans, all from Monash University, as well as Professor Karen Birds from Deakin University, Professor Joshua Baines from the University of Queensland, Professor Karen Barlow from the University of Queensland, and Naomi Fuller from the Connectivity Traumatic Brain Center, Australia. Find out more and register if you interest to participate in the trial. And there is a clicky linky there if you're in Australia. And we actually have a couple Australian watchers. So that's I'm hoping maybe they want to click on that and be a part of the trial.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool research study. I think that we're going to see a lot of good things come of this. I've heard a few doctors recently have actually said to patients, like, I can't prescribe it, but, like, maybe you should consider some magic mushrooms, as well as I've heard that peptides and, of course, functional mushrooms are helping people with post-traumatic concussions and such. So pretty interesting research.
It is. And I love the studies. Keep on and keep on and keep on it. And so as we keep on it, we're going to go to militarytimes.com, and they state nearly 5 million veterans have used magic mushrooms, LSD, or LSD or MDMA. Study finds. And that's by Nikki Owentelli. Look at that big ass mushroom.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. Just a little note, Hobbies, I'm having a really hard time hearing you when you're reading. I don't know if your mic is close enough while you're recording, but I was really straining and I have my volume at max. So,
okay. I'll try to speak a little more louder. I get stoned and I mumble.
That could be. I wasn't sure if it was just a distance thing or whether it was your mic wasn't picking you up or what, but just if I'm having a hard time, maybe our viewers may be as well. I don't know what their audio is versus mine. But I was really like struggling. You see me like come towards the screen. It's because I can't fucking hear you. So yeah, just so you know, I'm not sure if that's a thing on my end or yours, but we'll get on with this article. An estimated 4 million U.S. veterans have used psychedelic drugs, but are hesitant about discussing that use with the Department of Veterans Affairs providers for fear of jeopardizing their VA benefits, according to a new RAND study. The research released by the Washington think tank Tuesday examined veterans' use of psilocybin mushrooms, LSD, and MDMA, along with their level of support for legal use of the drug and their understanding of the VA's policies on them. The study comes as President Donald Trump administration has funneled funds into studying psychedelics as a form of mental health therapy, often promoting their potential to treat veterans in particular. Despite recent support from the federal government, the study reveals confusion among veterans about the VA's policies regarding the substances. The VA's policy around psychedelics remains unclear, and we found about half of veterans were unsure about discussing them with their VA doctor. Michelle Priest, lead author of the report, said in a statement that uncertainty matters, especially as veterans' issues are predominantly featured in policy conversations surrounding psychedelics, both at the federal and state level. About half of veterans were unsure whether discussing their use of psychedelics with their VA doctor would risk their benefits. The VA issued a policy in 2023 that encourages veterans to discuss their marijuana use with their doctor, and specifically that marijuana use wouldn't affect their benefits, but there's no such guidance or guarantee for other drugs, Rand said. About the findings Tuesday, a VA spokesperson directed reporters to the department's webpage, which states the agency strongly discourages self-medicating and or attempting to replace other mental health treatment options with psychedelics or any other unprescribed substance. Proven evidence-based treatments are currently available at VA facilities to treat veterans with mental health conditions. The VA website continues. Veterans should always consult their healthcare providers before making any treatment decisions. About 27.5% of all veterans have used substances. The study states LSD was the most common, with veterans being more likely than the general population to have used LSD in their lifetime. The study found that veterans are more likely to support the legal use of psilocybin mushrooms and LSD, 23% for mushrooms and 11% for LSD, but the support for MDMA at 9% was about the same for the rest of the country. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's a great article. Last year, Walter Reed National Military Medical Center received a $4.9 million Defense Department grant to fund a study of MDMA and its effect on active duty soldiers with post-traumatic stress disorder. Trump signed an executive order in April committing at least $50 million in federal funds to boost research on ibogaine, a powerful hallucinogen derived from the African shrub iboga. During the signing ceremony, Trump said, "It's a lot of people, but it's for our military in particular. The suicide epidemic among veterans is a national tragedy. Less than 1% of veterans have used ibogaine. The RAND study found about 5% of veterans who hasn't used it are willing to try it." Following the executive order, which directed the Food and Drug Administration to accelerate the reviews of certain psychedelic therapies, the VA announced its launch of a clinical trial with applicability to evaluate MDMA-assisted therapy on severe mental health disorders. And again, this is written by Nikki Bentley. Huh. That was a good article. Our last article of the day is SciPost.org, and that states that an international brain imaging analysis reveals how psychedelics rewire neural circuits by Karolina Petrova.
Yeah, an international analysis combining brain imaging data from multiple independent studies has identified a common pattern in how psychedelic drugs alter communication between different brain networks. The researchers found that substances such as psilocybin and LSD reliably increased functional connections between brain regions responsible for sensory input and those involved in abstract associative thought. The findings were published in the journal Nature Medicine. In recent years, classic psychedelic drugs like psilocybin, LSD, and DMT have re-entered mainstream psychiatric research as experimental treatments for conditions such as depression and anxiety. These substances already all reliably bind to a specific type of serotonin receptor in the brain, initiating profound shifts in perception and consciousness. To understand how these altered states physically manifest, researchers often use functional magnetic resonance imaging. This non invasive scanning technique measures spontaneous, coordinated blood flow in the brain. When people simply rest inside a scanner, their brain activity naturally synchronizes into distinct large scale networks. Some of these networks handle basic sensory and motor tasks, while others manage higher level cognitive functions like memory recall, self reflection, and goal planning. Past brain imaging studies of psychedelics have painted a fragmented picture of these network changes. Because collecting data on individuals under the influence of powerful psychedelic drugs is difficult and expensive, most studies rely on small sample sizes. Different research groups also apply different statistical methodologies to their individual data sets. These unchecked variables or variabilities have caused conflicting reports, with some laboratories finding specific brain connections increase, while others observe opposite effects altogether. To resolve these inconsistencies, a global team of scientists formed a collaborative consortium to pool existing brain imaging data into a single standardized analysis. The project was led by neuroscientist Manesh Grin at the University of California, San Francisco, and Danilo Bodek at McGill University, who worked with dozens of independent researchers across 3 continents.
Yeah, the research team gathered 11 independent data sets originally collected by different laboratories from 5 different countries. In total, the analysis included scans from 273 healthy adults who received one of 5 psychedelic substances: psilocybin, LSD, DMT, ayahuasca, or mescaline. Ooh, wow, we haven't heard them add that in a while. Instead of looking at each data set in isolation, the researchers applied a uniform processing pipeline to all the brain scans. The stabilization helped eliminate variations caused by different laboratories using disparate software programs to clean and prepare their raw imaging data. The team then analyzed the structural data using a statistic framework known as Bayesian hierarchical modeling. Traditional frequentist statistics often rely on arbitrary numerical thresholds to declare a biological effect as either present or entirely absent. In contrast, the Bayesian approach calculates a continuous probability that a specific change occurred. This method directly accounts for the variability across different participants, drugs, and originally studied designs, allowing the scientists to pinpoint the most reliable brain changes while maintaining a grade measurement of uncertainty. The pooled analysis identified a consistent brain signature operating across the different psychedelic substances. The researchers found robust increase in functional connectivity between the brain sensory networks and its association networks. Sensory networks, sometimes called unimodal networks, handles direct incoming information from the environment, such as visual processing and physical touch. Association networks, often referred to as transmodal networks, are systems like the default mode network and frontoparietal network. These systems synthesize raw data to support complex thought, money building, in the brain's baseline resting state. Under normal circumstances, these sensory association systems operate with a heavy degree of separation, maintaining a strict processing hierarchy that keeps basic perception distinct from abstract thought. Under the influence of psychedelics, the lines of communication between them flatten out. The scans showed that these distinct networks synchronize and integrate much more freely during the drug experience. The researchers also mapped changes deep within the brain's subcortical structures. Specifically, they looked at the dorsal striatum, a region made up of the cogea and putamen. This area is a primary involved in action selection and linking sensory input to behavioral output. The analysis showed a high probability that striatum strongly increases its communication with the sensory system of cortex during the psychedelic state. It's measuring different drugs against one another. The researchers noted that LSD and psilocybin displayed virtually identical brain network alterations. The overlap aligns with the comparative pharmacological properties in the large number of participants included for both substances in the pooled data. Mescaline inhibited a broadly similar pattern to LSD and psilocybin in terms of network merging. The substance DMT caused similar architectural shifts, but with even stronger network perturbations. Ayahuasca presented an idiosyncratic pattern in the statistical models, which the author attributes in its complex pharmacology and the extremely small number of participants who were scanned using that exact substance. The collective data also challenged a popular idea in neuroimaging field. Previous single laboratory studies frequently reported that psychedelics cause the brain's individual functional networks to break down internally, the phenomenon often described as within-network disintegration. When the researchers averaged the data across the pooled studies, this effect proved incredibly weak. The Bayesian analysis revealed very little statistical certainty for reductions in connectivity with specific networks, putting those earlier network breakdown claims into question. Wow.
Expanding on the biological findings requires consideration of several limitations inherent with combining historical data. The original studies were conducted over a span of several years using different magnetic resonance imaging scanners, which varied heavily in their magnetic field strengths, recording intervals, and technical specifications. The participants across the different data sets also received varying drug dosages, encountered different administration methods, and were scanned at wildly different chronological points during their respective drug experiences. Some participants received intravenous injections while others swallowed capsules. Some researchers began brain scans immediately after administration, while other scientists waited up to 2 hours for subjective effects to peak. Differences in simple study design play a role in interpretation as well. The vast majority of data sets relied on trials that actively compared the drug experience to a placebo control session. However, one data set lacked a placebo entirely, and another study used fixed order design in which sequence of drug and placebo conditions was not randomized. Such differences can introduce small biases related to participant expectation and novelty. Head motion remains a persistent challenge in this area of neuroscience. Individuals experiencing the subjective effects of psychedelics have documented tendencies to move around more inside the scanner than those sitting still after receiving a placebo. While the data Processing pipelines were formulated to minimize the impact of participant movement on the results. Residual visual noise in the imaging data remains unavoidable. To build on this foundational map, the scientists suggest the future research should abandon retrospective pooling and move forward towards prospectively harmonized trials. While these future projects, multiple laboratories would agree to use identical protocols for drug dosing, participant selection parameters, and brain scanning machine configurations before any data is gathered. So, interesting, very interesting.
Yeah. It's man, that's just the title alone. An international mega analyst of psychedelic drug effects on brain circuit function. That's a huge mouthful.
Yeah.
I love it. There is, if you like that article, there is a clicky link to the whole study. So you can see that at SciPost. What a great day. Great day. Oh, it's already an hour too. So here, let me go back to my lines. And scroll here. Okay. That was in my throat. Thank you for joining us here on Psychedelic Reporters on NOK Network, and for tuning in to our video podcast on NOK Network's Rumble and YouTube page, as well as our social media sites.
That's right, folks. We hope you enjoyed your update today of mainstream media coverage of psychedelic medicine advancements from around the globe.
Many thanks to our sponsors, to Kim Cooper in the background getting dabs and helping us produce this, to my joint hosts, Tara Simpson, and to Bufo Alvarius, and for choosing the stories, and to you, our listeners, for joining each week on Psychedelic Tunes. Let's hear from Dead Ringer again from Kirkland Lake on our way up. Bye! I'm looking at myself, reflections of my mind. It's just the kind of day to leave myself behind. So gently swaying through the fairyland of love. If you'll just come with me, you'll see the